Have you ever wondered what might happen when someone survives a near-death experience and receives a vision of the future? Today I'm going to share with you the incredible and disturbing story of Inigo Salamanca, a man who, after being rescued from the freezing waters of a river, had a vision that involves the end of the Paris 2024 Olympics. Get ready to hear a story that will leave you speechless. And if you like real stories that defy logic, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any details of this and other surprising stories. Hello, my name is Inigo Salamanca. I was born in a small town called Burgos, in Spain. I come from a devout Catholic family, and that has always been an important part of my life. I currently live in Florida, in the United States, where I moved with my family when I was 17 years old. Today, I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, and I have a story to tell that has completely changed my perspective on life, death, and what may lie beyond. Since I was a child, I've always been a little different. I saw things that others didn't see, lights, shapes, presences that I couldn't explain. My parents thought it was just an overactive imagination, but I knew it was something more. Over time, I learned to keep these experiences to myself. As I grew older, these visions lessened, but never completely disappeared. My life took an unexpected turn when I enlisted in the U.S. Navy. It was a decision that surprised my family, but I felt like I needed something more, something that challenged me. Little did I know that the biggest challenge of my life was yet to come, not on a naval mission, but on a rafting trip with my coworkers. What I'm going to share with you now is something I've carried with me for years. It is an experience that challenged everything I thought I knew about reality, about life and death. It's a story about a time when I was on the brink of death and came back, but not just that. It's about what I saw and learned during that brief but profound encounter with the other side. It was 1986. I was 19 years old and stationed at the U.S. Naval Installation in K-Head, Oregon. A group of co-workers decided to organize a rafting trip on the Rogue River. Everyone was excited, but I was terrified. I wasn't a good swimmer, and the idea of facing rapids left me with a knot in my stomach. But you know how it is when you're young. You don't want to look like a coward in front of your friends. So I swallowed my fear and agreed to go. On the day of the trip, I woke up with a strange feeling. It was as if something inside me knew that this day would be different, important in some way that I didn't yet understand. I ignored this feeling, attributing it to the natural nervousness of someone who is about to do something risky. We reached the river, and the sight of the turbulent waters made my heart race. The instructor gave us safety instructions, equipped us with life jackets and helmets, and off we went. The first rapids, Class 2 and 3, were exciting. I started to relax a little, thinking maybe it wasn't so bad after all. But then we arrived at Barra de Flores, a Class 4 rapid. The huge rocks, the foaming water, the deafening roar. It was all terrifying. I tried to concentrate on the guide's instructions, but fear was taking over. It was at that moment that everything went wrong. I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe it was a wrong move, maybe the kayak hit a rock I didn't see. One moment I was in the kayak, the next I was thrown into the icy, turbulent water. The shock of the cold water took my breath away. I tried to swim, but the current was too strong. I was dragged, spun around, pushed against rocks. I couldn't tell which was up or down. I fought desperately, trying to get to the surface, but it seemed like the more I fought, the deeper I went. It was in this moment of pure terror that something strange happened. Suddenly, all the fighting seemed pointless. A strange calm began to envelop me. The fear was replaced by a feeling of acceptance. I thought, this is how it's going to end. And with that thought, I stopped fighting. The moment I accepted what seemed like my destiny, everything changed. The feeling of drowning, the water pressure, the cold, it all disappeared in an instant. It was as if I had crossed an invisible barrier, moving from a world of chaos and fear to one of complete serenity. The first thing I noticed was the light. It was not a blinding or overly bright light, but a soft, welcoming glow that seemed to come from all directions at once. It was as if I were immersed in it. This light had a quality that I cannot adequately describe. It was as if it were alive, pulsing, almost as if it had a consciousness of its own. I no longer felt my physical body. There was no longer the feeling of being wet, cold, or out of breath. In fact, there was no physical sensation at all. It was as if I were just consciousness, floating freely in this space of light. Time seemed to not exist there. I can't tell if it was seconds, minutes, or hours. Each moment seemed to stretch infinitely, and at the same time, everything happened in an instant. As I floated in this state, I began to realize that I was not alone. There were presences all around me. At first, it was just vague impressions, as if I could feel someone close without actually seeing them. But little by little, these presences became more defined. They did not have human form, at least not in the sense we are used to. They were more like energy fields, manifestations of light with colors I had never seen before, colors that do not exist in our physical world. Each of these presences emanated a different sensation. Some conveyed a sense of deep wisdom, others of unconditional love, still others of pure and contagious joy. The most surprising thing is that I could communicate with these entities, but not through words. It was a form of direct communication, from mind to mind, or perhaps from essence to essence. Thoughts, emotions, and even memories were shared instantly, without the need for language. One of these presences approached closer. I can't say it was male or female, young or old. Those concepts simply didn't apply there. But the sensation emanating from this entity was one of such deep, unconditional love that it made me feel completely accepted and understood in a way I had never experienced before. It was this presence that began to guide me through this experience, showing me things I never imagined existed and preparing me for what was to come. The entity that approached me started showing me things. It was as if we were traveling together, not through physical space, but through dimensions of consciousness. Each place we visited was actually a state of being, a different reality. The first thing I was shown was a review of my own life, but it wasn't like watching a movie. I actually relived every moment. The amazing thing was that I could feel not only my own emotions, but also the emotions of the people I interacted with. I could feel the joy of my parents when I was born, the love of my siblings, even the sadness of people I may have hurt without realizing it. This review made me understand the impact each of my actions had, not just on my life, but on the lives of everyone around me. It was a profound lesson about how interconnected we are all, how every choice we make creates ripples that affect the whole. After that, the entity took me further. I started seeing scenes that were not part of my personal life. I saw the history of humanity unfold before my eyes, from the first humans to the present. I saw wars, discoveries, moments of great beauty and terrible cruelty. But the most impressive thing is that I could feel the collective consciousness of humanity evolving through it all. And then, the entity showed me something that left me perplexed. Visions of the future. It was not a fixed future, but possibilities, paths that humanity could follow. I have seen natural disasters on a scale I never imagined possible. Floods, earthquakes, drastic climate changes. I saw society transforming rapidly, technologies that seemed like science fiction becoming reality. But the clearest and most impactful vision was the closing of the Paris Olympics in 2024. I saw the closing ceremony as if I were there, and in the sky, during the event, there was a sign. I can't describe exactly what it was, but it was something that everyone could see, something that caused amazement and admiration throughout the world. The entity made me understand that this sign would be a milestone, the beginning of a new era for humanity. Not necessarily the end, but a profound transformation. I saw that after this event, significant changes would begin to occur at an accelerated pace. I was overwhelmed by all of this. How could I, a simple sailor, be seeing all these things? The entity, sensing my confusion, gave me a feeling of calm and understanding. It made me understand that I was being prepared, that I had a role to play, even if I didn't fully understand what that role was at that moment. As I absorbed everything I was seeing and feeling, the entity began to impart deep knowledge and insights to me. It was not information in the traditional sense, but fundamental truths about the nature of reality and our existence. One of the main lessons I received was about the nature of time. There, in that state, I was able to understand that time as we know it is an illusion. Past, present, and future exist simultaneously. What we call now is just the focal point of our consciousness at a given moment. This realization made me understand why I could see the future. It wasn't a prediction, but rather a glimpse of possibilities that already exist. Another profound revelation was about the nature of consciousness. I learned that our consciousness is not confined to our bodies or even our individual lives. We are part of a larger universal consciousness. Our individual lives are like waves in the ocean, unique in their expression, but fundamentally part of the same whole. The entity also showed me the importance of love and compassion. Not the romantic or familial love we know, but a universal, unconditional love. I could feel how this love is the most powerful force in the universe, capable of healing, transforming, and creating. I understood that every act of kindness, no matter how small, has a much greater impact than we can imagine in our physical reality. I learned about the purpose of life. It's not something simple like being happy or being successful, but something much deeper. Each life is an opportunity for growth, for expansion of consciousness. Difficulties, challenges, even suffering, all of this is part of this growth process. One of the most impactful lessons was about death. I understood that death as we know it does not exist. It's just a transition, a change of state. The fear of death is based on a limited understanding of reality. When we fully experience this transition, it is like waking up from a dream. We realize that our true nature is much more vast and eternal than we imagined. The entity also showed me the interconnectedness of all things, not just among human beings, but among all creation. Every thought, every action, every choice we make affects the whole in ways we cannot fully comprehend in our physical existence. I received knowledge about the universal laws that govern reality, laws that go far beyond the physics we know. I learned about the nature of energy, about how our thoughts and emotions literally shape the reality around us. All these lessons were conveyed not as information, but as direct experience. I wasn't just learning about these things, I was experiencing them, feeling them in every fiber of my being. The entity made me understand that I was receiving this knowledge for a reason, that somehow I had a role to play in sharing these truths with others, in helping prepare people for the changes that were coming. After what felt like an eternity immersed in this state of expanded knowledge and understanding, I felt a shift. The entity that was guiding me began to give me a feeling that it was time to return. At first I was reluctant. How could I leave this place of peace, love, and understanding to return to the physical world with all its limitations and challenges? The entity made me understand that my journey on Earth was not yet complete, that I had a purpose to fulfill, something important to accomplish. I was shown that the experiences and knowledge I received were not just for me, but to be shared, to help others prepare for the changes to come. Then I started to feel a kind of pull. It was as if my physical body was calling me back. The light around me began to change, becoming more intense. The presences that surrounded me began to move away, but not in a sad or definitive way. It was more like a temporary farewell, with the certainty that we would meet again. The last thing the entity conveyed to me was a sense of confidence and purpose. It was as if he was telling me, "Trust the process. You'll know what to do when the time comes." Suddenly I felt like I was falling, or rather being pulled back into something. The feeling of peace and expansion began to dissipate, and I began to feel the limits of my physical body again. It was an abrupt and somewhat shocking transition. The next thing I remember is coughing violently, expelling water from my lungs. The icy water of the Rogue River enveloped me again, and physical reality imposed itself with all its intensity. Hands grabbed me, pulling me out of the water, They were my colleagues, rescuing me. When I was finally able to breathe normally and look around me, I saw the worried and relieved faces of my companions. They were talking to me, asking questions, but I could barely process what they were saying. My mind was still trying to comprehend the transition from the spiritual to the physical realm. One of the guides approached, examining me with concern. He said something that I only understood later. "Man, you're really lucky. More than 21 people have already lost their lives on this stretch of river." At that moment, lying on the riverbank, shivering from the cold and exhaustion, I knew that my life would never be the same. I had been through something that defied all logic and normal understanding. Something that would forever change my perception of reality. The days following my near-death experience were a whirlwind of emotions and reflections. Physically, I was fine. Other than some bruises and exhaustion, there was no serious damage. But mentally and emotionally, I was in a completely new state. At first, it was difficult to readapt to normal life. The colors seemed more vivid, the sounds more intense. There were times when I would look at the people around me, and I could almost see the life energy emanating from them, like an echo of the visions I had on the other side. Sleeping became a challenge. Every time I closed my eyes, I was flooded with flashes of memories of my experience. I saw the beings of light. I reviewed the scenes from the future that were shown to me. I often woke up in the middle of the night with my heart racing, feeling as if I had just returned from another trip to the afterlife. I tried to talk about what happened with some close friends, but I soon realized it was difficult for them to understand. How can you explain something so profound and transformative to someone who hasn't been through it? Many listened with interest, but I could see in their eyes that they thought perhaps I had suffered some kind of hallucination due to lack of oxygen. It was at this time that the visions I had as a child began to return. I began to see the orbs of light again, the ethereal shapes I used to see as a child. But now, instead of scaring me, these visions brought me a sense of comfort, as if they were a constant reminder of the experience I had and the knowledge I had gained. I decided to start meditating regularly, trying to reconnect with that feeling of peace and expansion I experienced. During these meditations, I sometimes received powerful insights and intuitions. It was as if a channel of communication had been opened, allowing me to access, however briefly, that universal wisdom I experienced on the other side. One of the hardest things to deal with was the feeling of responsibility that came with this knowledge. I knew I had seen something important about the future, about the changes that would come. But how to share it? How do you prepare people without seeming crazy or alarmist? I decided I needed to be cautious and patient. I started to study more about near-death experiences, spirituality, and philosophies that talked about the nature of consciousness. I found comfort in discovering that many people had similar experiences to mine, and that many of the things I learned were echoed in ancient spiritual traditions. Little by little, I found ways to incorporate what I learned into my daily life. I started to practice more compassion, to be more aware of the impact of my actions. I tried to live in a way that honored the knowledge I was given, even if I couldn't share it openly with everyone. As the years passed, I learned to live with the knowledge and memories of my near-death experience. It was not an easy process. There were moments of doubt, moments when I wondered if it had all been real or just an elaborate creation of my mind in a moment of extreme stress. But the depth of the experience, the clarity of the visions, and most importantly, the transformation I felt within myself, always brought me back to the certainty that what I experienced was real and meaningful. One of the most challenging things was dealing with knowledge about the future. The visions I had, especially the one about the closing of the Paris Olympics in 2024, were always present in my mind. It was a burden to carry this information, knowing that something significant was about to happen and not being able to do much about it. I decided to focus my energy on preparing myself and, as much as possible, preparing others. Not in an alarmist or apocalyptic way, but encouraging people to be more aware, more connected with their spirituality, more attentive to the signs around them. I started to get more involved in volunteer work and humanitarian causes. I felt it was a way to put into practice the love and compassion I experienced on the other side. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, made me feel like I was somehow fulfilling the purpose I was shown. My relationship with religion has also changed. Although I grew up in a Catholic family, my experience showed me a spirituality that went beyond any specific doctrine. I came to see all religions as different paths to the same universal truth that I experienced. It gave me a new appreciation for the diversity of spiritual beliefs and practices. Visions and intuitions continued to be part of my life. I learned to trust my instincts more, to listen to that inner voice that seemed to be clearer and more present since my experience. It has guided me through many important life decisions, both personal and professional. One of the most profound lessons I continue to carry with me was the understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. I began to see each interaction, each relationship, as part of a complex web of cause and effect. This made me more aware of my words and actions, always considering the impact they could have beyond the immediate and visible. Over the years, I have met other people who have had similar experiences. These encounters were deeply comforting and validating. Being able to share our stories, compare our experiences, was a way to process and better understand what we experienced. As we approach 2024, I feel a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Part of me is eager to see if the visions I've had come to fruition. Another part fears the changes and challenges that may come. But most of all, I feel grateful to have had this experience, to have received this knowledge that has completely changed my perspective on life, death, and our purpose here. As we approach 2024, I feel a growing urgency. The visions I had during my near-death experience, especially those related to the closing of the Paris Olympics, are increasingly vivid in my mind. It's as if all the knowledge and insights I've received are crystallizing, becoming clearer and more relevant. I have made an effort to be more aware of world events, looking for signs or events that might align with what I saw. It's a delicate exercise. I don't want to fall into the trap of seeing meaning in every little event, but I also can't ignore the synchronicities that seem more and more frequent. One of the things that concerns me most is how to prepare those around me for what may be coming. I don't want to cause unnecessary panic or alarm, but I feel a responsibility to help others prepare, even if they don't know exactly what for. I have focused on encouraging practices that promote emotional and spiritual resilience, meditation, mindfulness, connection with nature. I believe these tools will be crucial to navigating the changes that are coming. I have also dedicated myself to studying climate change, technological advances, and social trends in more depth. Many of the visions I had seem to point to major transformations in these areas. The more I learn, the more I see how everything is interconnected, how each aspect of our reality influences and is influenced by the others. One of the most challenging things has been maintaining the balance between being prepared and continuing to live in the present. It's easy to become obsessed with the future, especially when you have the kind of knowledge I received. But one of the most important lessons I learned from my experience was about the illusory nature of time. The now is where we have the power to act, to make a difference. As 2024 approaches, I have felt an intensification of my spiritual experiences. Visions and intuitions are more frequent and clearer. It's as if the veil between the worlds is getting thinner. This has been both comforting and challenging. On the one hand, I feel more connected to that universal wisdom I experienced. On the other hand, sometimes it is overwhelming to deal with all this information and energy. I have been asking myself a lot about the role I should play when the time comes. The entity that guided me through my experience made me understand that I had a role to play, but the details were never clear. Should I talk openly about my views? Or is my role more subtle, acting behind the scenes to help people navigate the changes? One thing I have been doing is preparing myself physically, mentally, and spiritually. I keep myself in good physical shape, as I feel I will need strength and endurance for what is to come. Mentally, I continue studying and expanding my knowledge. And spiritually, I maintain a daily practice of meditation and reflection. I've also been thinking a lot about the nature of the change I have seen in my visions. It is not necessarily the end of the world, but rather a profound transformation. I try to remind people that change, while often scary, also brings opportunities for growth and evolution. As the days pass and 2024 approaches, I feel a mix of emotions: anxiety, anticipation, even a little fear. But most of all, I feel a deep trust in the process of life. My near-death experience showed me that there is so much more to existence than we can see or understand in our everyday reality. Whatever 2024 brings, I know it is part of a greater plan, a process of evolution of human consciousness. Here I am, on the eve of 2024, reflecting on the journey that brought me here. Since that day on the Rogue River, when I stood on the brink of death and glimpsed something beyond, my life has been a constant search for understanding and purpose. The visions I had during my near-death experience, especially those related to the closure of the 2024 Paris Olympics, have been a constant presence in my mind. As the event approaches, I feel a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. Part of me is eager to see if the visions come to fruition exactly as I saw them. Another part fears the changes and challenges that may come. I have wondered a lot about the nature of these visions. Are they a fixed, inevitable future? Or are they just possibilities, potential paths that humanity can follow? My experience showed me that time is not linear as we think, that past, present, and future somehow coexist. This makes me question how much we can influence this future with our actions in the present. One thing I've learned over the years is the importance of keeping an open mind. The visions I saw were powerful and impactful, but I know that reality often unfolds in ways we cannot predict or fully understand. I am prepared for the possibility that events may manifest in different ways than I imagined. As we approach this pivotal moment, I have felt an intensification of my spiritual experiences. Visions and intuitions are more frequent and clearer. It's like you're being prepared for something important. I try to stay centered and open, ready to act whenever and however necessary. One of the things that worries me most is how the people around me will react to the changes that are coming. My experience has shown me the interconnectedness of all things, how each action and reaction creates ripples that affect the whole. I hope I can be a source of calm and guidance amidst the turmoil that may arise. Looking back at that young sailor I was, who almost drowned in the Rogue River, I am in awe of the journey I took. The near-death experience was just the beginning of a profound transformation that continues to this day. Every day has been an opportunity to learn, grow, and try to better understand the purpose of my existence. One of the most important lessons I've learned over the years is the importance of balance. It's easy to become obsessed with visions of the future, with the urgency to prepare for what's to come. But I learned that it is equally important to live fully in the present, to appreciate every moment, every connection, every experience. After all, it is in the present that we have the power to act and make a difference. As 2024 approaches, I've been striving to maintain this balanced perspective. I continue to prepare myself, physically, mentally, and spiritually, for what may come. But I also strive to appreciate the beauty of everyday life, to cultivate meaningful relationships, to find joy in the simple things in life. A question I often ask myself is, what really is my role in all of this? The entities that guided me through my near-death experience made me understand that I had a purpose to fulfill, but the details were never clear. Should I talk openly about my views? Or is my role more subtle, acting behind the scenes to help people navigate the changes? As time passes, I'm coming to the conclusion that there may not be a single answer to this question. Perhaps my role is simply to be present, to be open, to be ready to act according to what each moment demands. Sometimes that might mean sharing my story and my views. Other times it can simply mean offering a listening ear or a word of comfort to someone who is struggling. One thing I know for sure is that the changes I've seen in my visions are not necessarily something to be feared. Yes, there may be challenges and difficulties ahead, but I also saw incredible possibilities for growth, for the evolution of human consciousness. I saw a future where people are more connected to each other and the world around them, where there is a deeper understanding of our interdependence and our place in the universe. As we approach the close of the Paris Olympics, I feel a mix of emotions. There is anxiety, yes, but also hope and even excitement. Whatever sign will appear in the sky, whatever change it will herald, I feel we will be on the threshold of something extraordinary. I vividly remember the feeling of unconditional love and acceptance I experienced during my near-death experience. This memory gives me strength and courage to face whatever the future brings. I know that no matter what happens, we are part of something bigger, something beautiful and meaningful. For those reading this, I want to leave a message of hope and encouragement. Change can be scary, but it also brings opportunities for growth and transformation. Keep your hearts and minds open. Cultivate compassion for yourself and others. Seek connection with the people around you, with nature, with the universe. And most of all, remember, you are stronger, more resilient, and more capable than you know. No matter what the future brings, trust in your ability to cope, adapt, and grow. As I write these final words, I feel a deep gratitude for everything I have experienced and learned. I am grateful for the second chance I received that day on the Rogue River. I am grateful for the knowledge and insights entrusted to me, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share my story with you. Now, as we approach this pivotal moment in human history, I feel ready. Ready to witness, ready to help, ready to be part of this great transformation that is coming. The future is uncertain, but I am full of hope and expectation. May we all face what lies ahead with courage, compassion, and a shared sense of purpose. Tomorrow awaits us, full of possibilities. Let's go together towards this new dawn,